The unexpected encounter. In the vast expanse of what was once the American Midwest, a lone figure trudged across the barren landscape. Zach Cooper, a lanky 12-year-old with unruly brown hair and eyes that sparkled with curiosity, paused to wipe the sweat from his brow. The scorching sun beat down mercilessly, turning the world into a shimmering mirage of heat and dust. It had been nearly a century since the Great Collapse, an event that had reshaped the planet and forced humanity to its knees. The thriving cities and lush farmlands of the past were now nothing more than distant memories, replaced by endless stretches of wasteland and the scattered remnants of civilization. Zach adjusted the worn backpack on his shoulders, his fingers brushing against the solar-powered tablet tucked safely inside. It was his most prized possession, a relic from the old world that held a wealth of knowledge about the past. Despite the harsh realities of his present, Zach's mind often wandered to the stars, wondering what lay beyond the dusty skies of Earth. As he crested a small hill, Zach's eyes widened at the sight before him. In the distance, the ruins of a pre-collapsed city rose from the earth like the fossilized bones of some great beast. Tall, crumbling structures reached toward the sky, their windows long since shattered, and their steel frames exposed to the elements. "Whoa," Zach breathed, his voice barely audible above the whisper of the hot wind. He had heard stories of these ancient metropolises, but had never ventured this far from his settlement before. The urge to explore, to uncover the secrets of the past, tugged at him like an invisible thread. Glancing back over his shoulder, Zach could no longer see the squat, fortified buildings of his home. He knew he should turn back. His parents would be worried, and venturing into the ruins alone was strictly forbidden. But the allure of discovery was too strong to resist. With a deep breath, Zach started down the hill toward the city. As he drew closer, the sheer scale of the structures became even more apparent. Moss and vines had reclaimed much of the concrete and steel, nature slowly erasing the marks of human civilization. Zach's heart raced with excitement as he stepped onto what had once been a wide avenue. Rusted hulks of vehicles littered the street, serving as silent testimonies to the chaos of the collapse. He ran his hand along the side of a nearby car, marveling at the smooth curves of its design, so different from the utilitarian vehicles of his own time. As he ventured deeper into the city, a strange sensation began to creep over him. The back of his neck prickled, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Zach spun around, his eyes darting from one empty window to another, searching for any sign of movement. "Hello," he called out, his voice echoing off the abandoned buildings. "Is anyone there?" Only silence answered him, broken occasionally by the whisper of wind through the empty streets. Shaking off his unease, Zach pressed on, drawn by the promise of undiscovered treasures. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Zach knew it was time to head back. He had just turned to retrace his steps when a sound unlike anything he had ever heard before split the air. It was a screech, but not the screech of any earthly creature. The sound was at once metallic and organic, sending shivers down Zach's spine and causing the hairs on his arms to stand on end. His eyes frantically searched the darkening sky, seeking the source of the otherworldly cry. And then he saw it. Descending from the heavens like a bolt of living lightning was a creature that defied imagination. It had the general shape of an eagle, but it was far larger than any bird Zach had ever seen or read about. Its wingspan must have been at least 30 feet, and its feathers shimmered with an iridescent quality that seemed to change color with every movement. But it was the creature's eyes that truly captivated Zach. They glowed with an inner light, two orbs of swirling blue energy that seemed to pierce right through him, as if reading the very essence of his being. Zach stood frozen, his mind unable to process what he was seeing. Part of him screamed to run, to hide, to escape this impossible apparition. But a deeper part, the part that had always yearned for something more, kept him rooted to the spot. The creature, the alien eagle, as Zach's mind had already begun to categorize it, circled once, its massive form blocking out the setting sun for a moment. Then, with a grace that belied its size, it dove straight for him. Zack's survival instincts finally kicked in, and he turned to flee. But he had barely taken 2 steps when he felt the rush of air from the creature's wings, followed by the sensation of razor-sharp talons closing around his midsection. A scream tore from Zack's throat as his feet left the ground. The alien eagle's powerful wings beat the air, lifting them both higher and higher into the sky. Zack's stomach lurched as the ruined city fell away beneath them, becoming smaller and smaller until it was nothing more than a dark smudge on the landscape. As they soared through the clouds, Zack's terror began to give way to a strange sense of wonder. Despite the precariousness of his situation, he couldn't help but marvel at the view spread out before him. The curvature of the earth was visible now, a blue and brown arc against the deepening black of space. Just when Zack thought they couldn't possibly go any higher, the alien eagle let out another piercing cry. The sound reverberated through Zack's body, and suddenly, the world around them seemed to shimmer and distort. With a flash of blinding light, Earth disappeared, replaced by a sea of stars unlike anything Zack had ever seen. They were flying through space itself, the impossible creature carrying him effortlessly through the void. Zack's mind reeled, unable to comprehend what was happening. As consciousness began to slip away from him, one thought echoed through his mind: nothing would ever be the same again. The alien eagle, sensing its passenger's distress, sent a wave of calming energy through its talons. As Zack's eyes fluttered closed, the creature's voice resonated in his mind, clear and strong. "Fear not, young one. Your journey is just beginning." With that, they streaked across the starry expanse, leaving behind a world on the brink of change and hurtling toward a destiny neither of them could have imagined. The cosmic revelation. Consciousness returned to Zack slowly, like waves lapping at the shore of his mind. As his eyes fluttered open, he found himself lying on a smooth metallic surface that thrummed with a faint energy. The air around him felt different, crisp and clean, with an underlying scent he couldn't quite place. Sitting up cautiously, Zack gasped as he took in his surroundings. He was in an enormous circular chamber with walls that curved upward to form a domed ceiling. But these weren't ordinary walls. They seemed to be made of a transparent material that offered a breathtaking view of space. Stars twinkled in the vast blackness, and in the distance he could see the familiar blue orb of Earth. "I'm in space," Zack whispered, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and awe. "Indeed you are, young Zack Cooper," a voice responded, causing him to whirl around. Standing, or rather, perched, behind him was the alien eagle that had brought him here. Up close, the creature was even more magnificent. Its feathers shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, and its eyes glowed with an inner light that seemed to contain entire galaxies. You can talk," Zack stammered, his mind struggling to process everything. The eagle's beak curved in what Zack could have sworn was a smile. "I am Astrax, and yes, I can communicate with you, though not in the way you might expect." Zack realized the eagle's beak wasn't moving. The words were forming directly in his mind, accompanied by vivid images and emotions. "Where am I? Why did you bring me here?" Zack asked, his initial fear giving way to curiosity. Astrax spread his wings, gesturing to the chamber around them. "You are aboard the Celestial Nexus, a hidden outpost of the Guardians. We have watched over your world for millennia, young one." Before Zack could ask who the Guardians were, a section of the wall shimmered and parted, revealing a corridor beyond. 3 tall, slender figures glided into the room, their movements graceful and fluid. They had vaguely humanoid forms, but their skin was a pale, luminescent blue, and their eyes were large, almond-shaped, and entirely silver. "Welcome, Zack Cooper of Earth." The central figure spoke, its voice melodious and gender-neutral. "I am Zephyr, and these are my fellow Guardians, Lyra and Novax. We have long awaited your arrival." Zack's head spun with questions. You've been waiting for me. But why? I'm just a kid from a dying world. Zephyr exchanged a meaningful look with Astrax before addressing Zack again. You are far more than that, young one. You carry within you a genetic marker that we have been searching for. A key that could change the fate of not just your world, but the entire galaxy. As Zack tried to process this information, Lyra stepped forward, holding out a hand. In her palm floated a small glowing orb. This is a cosmic seed, she explained. It contains the collective knowledge and wisdom of our people. With your permission, we can share this knowledge with you, helping you understand the true nature of your importance. Zack hesitated, his gaze darting between the Guardians and Astrax. The eagle nodded encouragingly. Trust your instincts, Zack. You have been chosen for a reason. Taking a deep breath, Zack reached out and touched the cosmic seed. Instantly, his mind was flooded with images, knowledge, and sensations beyond anything he had ever experienced. He saw the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the galaxy, the delicate balance of cosmic forces, and the looming threat that now endangered everything. As the vision faded, Zack stumbled back, overwhelmed by what he had seen. There's an invasion coming, he gasped. To Earth. But why? We have nothing left. Novax, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. The Void Horde cares not for resources or technology, young Zack. They seek only to consume and destroy. Your world stands at a crucial juncture, a nexus point that could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. But what can I do? Zack asked, feeling small and insignificant in the face of such a monumental threat. I'm just one person. Zephyr placed a comforting hand on Zack's shoulder. The genetic marker you carry is the key to activating ancient defenses hidden beneath the surface of your planet. Defenses put in place by our ancestors, waiting for the right person to awaken them. Astrax stepped forward, his wings brushing against Zack reassuringly. This is why I brought you here, Zack. You needed to understand the true nature of your world's history and the role you must play in its future. As Zack absorbed this information, a new determination began to grow within him. He thought of his family back on Earth, of all the people struggling to survive in the harsh post-collapse world. They had no idea of the cosmic drama unfolding around them, or of the danger that threatened to extinguish what remained of humanity. What do I need to do? Zack asked, his voice stronger now, filled with a resolve that surprised even him. Zephyr nodded approvingly. First, you must be trained. The knowledge we have given you is just the beginning. You must learn to harness the latent abilities within you, abilities that have lain dormant in your bloodline for generations. Lyra added, we will teach you the ways of energy manipulation, mental projection, and how to interface with the ancient technologies hidden on your world. And I, Astrax interjected, will be your guardian and guide. Together, we will unlock the full potential of your human adaptability and creativity, traits that have long fascinated and impressed us. Zack looked out at the stars, then back at Earth, his home, suspended in the vastness of space, unknowingly on the brink of either destruction or a new dawn. He thought of all the times he had gazed up at the night sky, dreaming of adventure and purpose. Now that purpose had found him, in a way he could never have imagined. How long do we have? He asked, already bracing himself for the answer. Novax's expression grew grave. The Void Horde moves swiftly. We estimate they will reach Earth within 1 of your months. We must make every moment count. Zack squared his shoulders, feeling the weight of responsibility settling upon them. It was terrifying, but also exhilarating. For the first time in his life, he felt truly alive, part of something greater than himself. Then let's get started, he said, his voice filled with determination. We've got a world to save. The Guardians exchanged pleased glances, and Astrax let out a triumphant screech that reverberated through the chamber. As they led Zack deeper into the celestial nexus to begin his training, He couldn't help but feel a mix of fear and excitement for what lay ahead. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested on the shoulders of a 12-year-old boy from a forgotten wasteland. But with the wisdom of the Guardians, the strength of Astrax, and the untapped potential within himself, Zack was ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. As the first phase of his cosmic journey began, Zack couldn't help but think that sometimes the most unlikely heroes emerge from the most unexpected places, and he was determined to prove that humanity, despite its flaws and struggles, still had a vital role to play in the grand tapestry of the universe. The awakening of power days blurred into weeks as Zack immersed himself in his training aboard the Celestial Nexus. The Guardians were patient but demanding teachers, pushing him to limits he never knew he possessed. Each day brought new challenges and revelations as Zack began to unlock the dormant abilities within his genes. Under Zephyr's tutelage, Zack learned to manipulate energy fields, creating shimmering barriers and focused beams of power. At first, the effort left him drained and gasping, but with each passing day, his control grew stronger, more instinctive. Lyra taught him the art of mental projection, showing him how to extend his consciousness beyond his physical form. It was disorienting at first, the sensation of floating free from his body, but soon Zack found himself able to perceive things on levels he had never imagined possible. Novax's lessons were perhaps the most challenging. The stoic Guardian instructed Zack in the intricacies of alien technology, teaching him how to interface with systems far beyond human understanding. Zack's mind, already sharp and curious, absorbed the knowledge like a sponge, making connections and leaps of logic that sometimes surprised even the Guardians. But it was Astrax who became Zack's closest companion and mentor. The alien eagle took Zack on breathtaking flights through the corridors of the Nexus, teaching him about the stars and the complex web of alliances and conflicts that shaped the galaxy. During these flights, Zack learned to attune himself to Astrax's thoughts, strengthening their bond and developing a form of communication that transcended words. As Zack's training progressed, he began to notice subtle changes in himself. His reflexes became sharper, his senses more acute. He could feel the energy flowing around him, through him, connecting him to the very fabric of the universe. It was exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. One day, during a particularly intense training session with Zephyr, Zack faced a simulation of a Void Horde attack. Holographic enemies swarmed around him, their shadowy forms writhing and twisting in ways that defied physics. In the past, such a sight would have paralyzed him with fear. But now, Zack felt a calm determination settle over him. He moved with fluid grace, his hands weaving intricate patterns in the air as he manipulated energy fields to deflect attacks and create openings. His mind reached out, sensing the patterns of the simulation, anticipating moves before they happened. In a dazzling display of newly acquired skills, Zack neutralized the entire swarm, leaving the training room in stunned silence. Zephyr's normally serene face broke into a wide smile. "Exceptional, Zack. You're progressing faster than we could have hoped." Zack, breathing heavily but grinning with exhilaration, felt a surge of pride, but along with it came a pang of homesickness. Do you think I'm ready to go back soon? To help Earth?" The Guardian's expression sobered. "Your skills have indeed grown impressively. But the true test lies not in this training room, but in the crucible of real conflict. Are you prepared for that?" Zack thought of his family, his settlement, all the people on Earth who had no idea of the cosmic drama unfolding around them. "I have to be," he said softly. "They're counting on me, even if they don't know it yet." Astrax, who had been observing the training session, stepped forward. "Perhaps it is time for a different kind of lesson," the eagle suggested. "Zack has learned much of power and technique, but to truly understand what he fights for, he must remember what it means to be human." Zephyr considered this for a moment, then nodded. "A wise suggestion, old friend. Zack, prepare yourself. It's time for you to see the bigger picture." Curious and a little apprehensive, Zack followed Astrax and Zephyr to a part of the Nexus he hadn't seen before. They entered a vast, spherical chamber, its walls alive with swirling patterns of light and color. "This is the Cosmic Observatory," Zephyr explained. "From here, we can view any part of the galaxy in real time. Today, we will use it to show you something important." At a gesture from the Guardian, the chamber darkened, and suddenly Zack felt as if he were floating in space. Stars and nebulae swirled around him, and in the distance, he could see the familiar blue marble of Earth. "Look closely," Astrax urged, his mental voice gentle but insistent. As Zack focused, the view zoomed in, rushing past the atmosphere to show him the surface of his home planet. He saw the vast wastelands, the struggling settlements, but also pockets of green where nature was slowly reclaiming the land. And everywhere, he saw people, working, building, living, surviving against all odds. "Your world has suffered greatly," Zephyr said softly. "But look at the resilience of your species. Even in the face of near extinction, humanity perseveres." The view shifted, showing Zack glimpses of other worlds, other civilizations across the galaxy. Some were vastly more advanced than Earth, with soaring cities and technology that seemed like magic. Others were younger, still taking their first tentative steps into the cosmic community. "The galaxy is vast and full of wonders," Astrax commented, "but it is also fraught with dangers. The Void Horde threatens not just Earth, but all of this." As if on cue, the idyllic views were replaced by scenes of devastation. Zack watched in horror as shadowy, writhing forms descended upon vibrant worlds, leaving only lifeless husks in their wake. The Void Horde was a force of pure destruction, consuming everything in its path. "This is what we stand against," Zephyr said gravely. "This is why your role is so crucial. The defenses hidden on Earth are part of a larger network, a final line of defense against the Horde. If Earth falls, the entire galaxy becomes vulnerable." Zack felt the weight of this knowledge settling on his shoulders. It was almost too much to bear, but as he looked at the images of Earth, of people going about their lives, unaware of the cosmic forces swirling around them, he felt a fierce protectiveness well up inside him. "I understand now," he said, his voice quiet but filled with resolve. "It's not just about saving Earth. It's about giving humanity a chance to reach its full potential, to join this larger community." Astrax's mental voice was filled with approval. "You see clearly, young one. This is the heart of a true guardian, to protect not just one world, but the delicate balance of all life." As the images faded and the chamber returned to normal, Zack turned to his mentors. "I'm ready," he declared. "Whatever it takes, whatever I have to do, I'll defend Earth and stop the Void Horde." Zephyr placed a hand on Zack's shoulder, a gesture of both comfort and solidarity. "The path ahead will not be easy. You will face challenges that will test you in ways you cannot imagine. But know this, you do not stand alone. The hopes of many rest with you, but so too does their strength." Astrax rustled his feathers, a sign of anticipation. "The final phase of your training begins now, Zack Cooper. When next you set foot on Earth, it will be as its defender, its awakener, and its bridge to the stars." As Zack left the Cosmic Observatory, his mind was awhirl with all he had seen and learned. The enormity of his task was daunting, but for the first time since this incredible journey began, he felt truly ready to face it. With the power awakening within him and the wisdom of the cosmos to guide him, Zack was prepared to fight for the future, not just of Earth, but of all life in the galaxy. The countdown to Earth's moment of truth had begun, and Zack was determined to meet it head-on. The return to Earth. The day of Zack's return to Earth arrived with a mixture of anticipation and solemnity. The celestial nexus hummed with activity as final preparations were made. Zack stood in the chamber where his journey had begun, now transformed both inside and out. He was taller, his body honed by weeks of intense training, and his eyes held a depth of knowledge far beyond his years. Astrax perched nearby, his metallic feathers shimmering with barely contained energy. The bond between them had grown strong, a connection that transcended mere partnership. "Are you ready, young guardian?" the alien eagle asked, his mental voice tinged with both pride and concern. Zack took a deep breath, centering himself as he'd been taught. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied, managing a small smile. "Though I have to admit, I'm nervous about how to explain all this to my family and friends." Zephyr, who had been making final adjustments to a sleek device on Zack's wrist, looked up. "Remember, Zack, discretion will be crucial in the early stages. Not everyone will be ready to accept the truth about Earth's place in the cosmos." Nodding, Zack glanced at the device. It looked like an oversized watch, but contained technology far beyond anything on Earth. "This will help me locate and activate the hidden defenses, right?" "Indeed," Lyra confirmed, stepping forward. "It will also allow you to communicate with us and access the knowledge you've gained here. Use it wisely." Novax, usually the most reserved of the Guardians, placed a hand on Zack's shoulder. "You have learned much, young one, but your greatest lessons still lie ahead. Trust in yourself and in the strength of your people." With final words of encouragement and farewells exchanged, Zack climbed onto Astrax's back, settling between the eagle's powerful wings. As the chamber's outer doors began to open, revealing the star-studded expanse of space, Zack felt a surge of determination. This was it, the moment everything had been building towards. "Let's go save the world," he said, his voice steady and resolute. With a mighty beat of his wings, Astrax launched them into space. They streaked across the cosmos, Astrax's innate ability to navigate fold space making the vast distance between the Nexus and Earth vanish in the blink of an eye. Re-entry was a heart-pounding experience, far more intense than their initial journey. Zack clung tightly to Astrax as they blazed through Earth's atmosphere, the eagle's natural defenses protecting them from the searing heat. As they broke through the cloud cover, Zack gasped. The landscape below was both familiar and strange. The vast wastelands he knew, but seen now with eyes that had witnessed the wonders of the galaxy. Everything seemed smaller, more fragile, yet infinitely precious. Astrax banked, heading towards the ruins where he had first found Zack. "We must be cautious," the eagle warned. "Your disappearance will not have gone unnoticed." They landed in a secluded area just outside the ruined city. As Zack slid off Astrax's back, the reality of being home hit him full force. The air, the smell of the earth, the feel of the wind. It was all so viscerally familiar, yet he felt like a stranger in his own world. "I'll remain hidden nearby," Astrax said, his form shimmering as he activated a cloaking device. "Call for me if you need me. And Zack, good luck." With a deep breath, Zack began the walk back to his settlement. As he approached, he could see the fortified walls, the guards on patrol, all sights he had known his whole life, but now viewed through a vastly different lens. Shouts went up as he was spotted. The main gate creaked open, and a group rushed out to meet him. In the lead was a woman with graying hair and worried eyes that suddenly lit up with joy and disbelief. "Zack," she cried, her voice breaking. "Oh my God, Zack." "Mom," Zack whispered, suddenly feeling like a child again as she enveloped him in a fierce hug. "Where have you been?" his father demanded, his gruff voice unable to hide his relief. We thought you were." Zack pulled back, looking at the faces of his parents, the settlement leaders, his friends, all of them a mixture of joy, confusion, and suspicion. How could he even begin to explain? I got lost," he began, the prepared story feeling hollow on his tongue. "I found shelter, but it took me a while to find my way back." The settlement's chief, a stern woman named Miranda, stepped forward. "For over a month. Do you have any idea what we've been through? The resources wasted on search parties." Guilt washed over Zack. In the intensity of his training, he hadn't fully considered the impact his disappearance would have had. "I'm sorry," he said sincerely. "I never meant to cause trouble. But I'm back now, and there's something important I need to tell you all." Miranda's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean? What's happened to you, Zach? You look different." Zach opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, a new commotion arose from the watchtower. "Incoming! We've got incoming!" All eyes turned to the sky, where a dark shape was rapidly approaching. Zach's heart leaped. Had the Void Horde arrived already? But no, this was something else. As it drew closer, he realized it was a ship, but not like any he had seen before. It was clearly of Earth origin, but far more advanced than anything their settlement had. The ship landed just outside the walls, and a group of armed individuals in sleek uniforms emerged. Their leader, a tall woman with piercing eyes, strode towards the gathered crowd. "I am Commander Rise of the Global Defense Initiative," she announced, her voice carrying authority. "We detected an anomalous energy signature in this area. We're here to investigate a potential incursion." Her eyes locked onto Zach, and he felt a chill run down his spine. She knew. Somehow, she knew something had happened. Miranda stepped forward, her posture defensive. "This is a sovereign settlement. You have no authority here." Ray smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm afraid the situation has changed. The world is changing, and your little outpost is now at the center of it." She turned her gaze back to Zach. "Starting with this young man here. I think it's time we had a chat, don't you?" Zach's mind raced. This was not how he had envisioned his return. The GDI, an organization he had only heard whispers of, was clearly more aware of cosmic matters than he had been led to believe. But were they allies or potential obstacles? As tension mounted between the settlers and the GDI forces, Zach realized that his task had just become infinitely more complex. He wasn't just bridging the gap between Earth and the cosmos. He was now caught between factions of his own world, each with their own agendas and secrets. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and Zach knew that his next moves would be crucial. With a silent prayer to the stars, he stepped forward to face Commander Reyes, ready to navigate this unexpected challenge and somehow unite his fractured world before it was too late. The choice and the battle. The tension in the air was palpable as Zach stood between his community and the GDI forces. Commander Reyes' piercing gaze never left him, as if trying to unravel the mysteries surrounding his disappearance and return. "Young man," Reyes said, her voice firm but not unkind, "I think it's time you told us exactly where you've been and what you've learned." Zach's mind raced. He could feel the weight of Astrax's presence nearby, hidden but watchful. The device on his wrist hummed softly, a reminder of the cosmic knowledge he now carried. He had to make a choice, and fast. Taking a deep breath, Zach stepped forward. "You're right, Commander. There's a lot I need to explain, but not just to you, to everyone." He turned to face the gathered crowd of settlers, his family, and friends. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I swear it's the truth. Earth is in danger, and we don't have much time." Over the next hour, Zach recounted his journey. The encounter with Astrax, the Celestial Nexus, the Guardians, and the looming threat of the Void Horde. He demonstrated some of his newfound abilities, manipulating energy fields and accessing alien knowledge through his wrist device. The settlers watched in awe and disbelief, while the GDI personnel exchanged knowing glances. As Zach finished his tale, Commander Reyes nodded slowly. "We've suspected something like this for years. Our deep space monitoring stations have been picking up anomalous signals, but we never imagined." She trailed off, then squared her shoulders. "What do you need from us?" Before Zach could respond, a deafening alarm blared from the GDI ship. One of Reyes' officers rushed over, his face pale. "Commander, we're detecting multiple objects entering the atmosphere. It's not like anything we've ever seen." Zach's blood ran cold. "They're here," he whispered. "The Void Horde." As if on cue, the sky darkened. Swirling, writhing shapes began to descend, living shadows that seemed to devour the very light around them. Panic erupted among the settlers, but Zack's voice cut through the chaos. "Listen to me," he shouted, his voice carrying an authority that surprised even him. "This is what I've been preparing for, but I can't do it alone. I need all of you, settlers, GDI, everyone. We have to work together if we're going to survive this." Commander Rise was already barking orders into her comm unit, calling for reinforcements. Miranda, the settlement chief, looked at Zack with a mixture of fear and pride. "What do you need us to do, son?" Zack's wrist device sprang to life, projecting a holographic map of the area. "There are ancient defense systems hidden underground. We need to activate them. But first, we have to hold off the Horde." What followed was a battle unlike anything Earth had ever seen. GDI ships clashed with void entities in the sky, their advanced weapons barely holding the line. On the ground, settlers armed with makeshift weapons fought alongside GDI soldiers, guided by Zack's strategic insights. Zack himself was a whirlwind of action. He darted across the battlefield, using his energy manipulation skills to create shields, blast back void creatures, and heal the injured. Astrax revealed himself, swooping down to snatch up void entities and rend them with his metallic talons. As the battle raged, Zack and a small team fought their way to the location of the first defense node. Using his wrist device and the knowledge imparted by the Guardians, Zack interfaced with the ancient technology. The ground rumbled, and a massive structure rose from the earth, a towering obelisk that pulsed with otherworldly energy. "One down, 2 to go," Zack shouted, already moving towards the next location. The activation of the first node turned the tide of the battle. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the obelisk, vaporizing void entities and creating a protective dome over a large area. But the Horde was relentless, and for every entity destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. As they fought to reach the second node, Zack saw friends fall, saw the brave men and women of Earth giving everything they had to protect their home. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, heavier than ever. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of fighting, all 3 defense nodes were activated. The obelisks hummed in unison, creating a network of energy that encompassed the entire region. The remaining void entities screeched in fury and pain as they were forced back. But the battle wasn't over. The Horde regrouped, concentrating its forces on a single point in the energy field, the weakest link. Zack knew that if they broke through, all would be lost. "This is it," he called out to the weary defenders. "Everything we fought for comes down to this moment. We can't let them through." In that final stand, humanity showed its true strength. Settlers fought alongside soldiers, old rivalries forgotten in the face of a common enemy. Zack, his powers pushed to their limit, stood at the forefront, a beacon of hope and determination. As the Void Horde made its final push, Zack felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had experienced before. He realized it wasn't just his own power. It was the combined will of everyone fighting alongside him, channeled through the ancient defenses and his own unique connection to the cosmic forces. With a primal yell, Zack released all of that energy in one massive burst. A shockwave of pure light exploded outward, engulfing the void entities. For a moment, the world was nothing but blinding radiance. When the light faded, the sky was clear. The Void Horde was gone, banished back to the dark corners of the universe from which they came. A stunned silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the occasional crackle of energy from the defense obelisks. Slowly, realization dawned. Cheers erupted, growing in volume until they echoed across the wasteland. They had done it. Earth had faced its greatest threat and emerged victorious. As the celebration raged around him, Zack felt a gentle mental touch. He looked up to see Astrax perched atop one of the obelisks. "Well done, young guardian," the eagle's voice resonated in his mind. "This is but the first step on a long journey, but it is a momentous one." Zack nodded, understanding the truth of those words. Earth had proven itself, had shown that humanity deserved its place among the stars. There would be challenges ahead: rebuilding, establishing contact with the wider galactic community, learning to use the ancient technologies now at their disposal. But for the first time in generations, the future looked bright. As Commander Rice approached, extending her hand in both congratulations and partnership, Zack knew that his adventure was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. With the wisdom of the Guardians, the friendship of Astrax, and the indomitable spirit of his fellow humans, Zack was ready to lead Earth into a new age of cosmic citizenship. The boy who had once dreamed of the stars now stood as a bridge between worlds, a guardian of Earth, and a beacon of hope for all of humanity. And as he looked up at the sky, no longer a barrier but a road to endless possibilities, Zack Cooper smiled, ready for whatever the universe had in store.